attendance.
Okay, I see Dennis Brennan, Beth Greenwood, Elena Finnan, Matt Ghetto, Jamie Puccioni, Kevin Walsh, Dart Strayer, Clark Henry, John Delarada, and I think I heard Jean Fody in there. Jean in there?
Yes, I
Yes.
can. Lay it down in the corner.
Okay, so are there any comments from the public or concerns from the public?
I didn't receive any.
All right, very good. That brings us to the minutes of the May meeting. And I will make a motion to approve those.
Second.
Are there any opposed? Those will be accepted unanimously, and that brings us over to the resolutions.
Okay, and I'm just going to work on this one, and I think Clark will take over for me. But the first one is the resolution making a secret determination for a special use permit on the 22 lot average density development at 1851 Union Street and 1245 Ruffner Road, consisting of 10 single family homes and 12 townhomes. This one has a recommendation from the Conservation Advisory Council for the town board, who is the lead agency, to make a positive determination on the environmental impacts. And this may be the longest EDHP packet you've ever received. But that's really because it just has all of the backup documentation from the CAC for making a positive recommendation, should the town choose to accept that. The backup documentation really just is it's the requirement from New York State to cover the CAC's findings, but the sort of the first 2 pages of your packet after the minutes, which is just a point by point summary of the CAC findings, are really, I think, I don't know that I mean, feel free to look at everything, but this is the summary of everything that's in the packet. And I don't know, Dart, if you kind of want to go through the findings or not, but
Sure.
specific. Okay, go ahead. It's better than if you want to do it.
Yeah, so the process is that the CAC met with the applicant multiple times over a fairly long period of time. And after discussing back and forth with the applicant, there is a process that the committee goes through, and there's part 2 of the form that New York State puts out for seeker. And there's a series of questions that you have to go through, and it deals with all the different aspects of the law. And basically what we do is we go through that process and we answer the questions. And the first question is there an impact, let's say, to a certain aspect of it? And then you can say no, you can skip that question. But if you say yes, then what you have to do is you go through a series of questions there, and you evaluate the impact as no or little impact, moderate impact, or high impact. So that's the process that you go through that. Then the committee has a deliberation, and we talk about the key components of the seeker law, and may there be a impact or may there not be an impact, and we go through that. So there's 2 processes here, but really there's a couple things that the CAC looked at and felt that really deserved a closer look, which really what we're asking the town to do is to take a closer look. First of all, if you look at the Mohawk Golf Club, it is the largest parcel, open parcel, and it is half the acreage of the privately held open parcels within this community, and it serves as a major recreational focal point for the town. It's in a very, very dense area as well. So the committee feels that this is a very valuable piece of property, and in fact, the comprehensive plan brings this up multiple times, that it's integral to the private-public recreation. The town should take actions to protect it, to make sure that it is there for future generations. And there were some recommendations, like if it comes up for sale, we should purchase it. We should look at ways to preserve open space. So it was identified in the comprehensive plan as one of the parcels important to this community. The other thing is that this plays a very central area. It provides an open space and an aesthetic viewscape to the local residents, both in the country club area and in the Roughville Road area, and then subsequently wrapping around. So from an open space standpoint, it's extremely valuable to the town. The other thing that we noted was that 14 acres of forest area are going to be removed, and that meets the threshold for an action 1 in the seeker, anything 10 acres or above. What that means is in the seeker, there's basically 3 categories. There's a category 1 where there is likely to be an environmental impact, which this fell under. There's another type 2 where it's just basically building permits and administrative actions, which we cannot make a positive determination for. And then there's a third category, unlisted. So this property falls both in the category 1, type 1, and unlisted category there. So the fact that the loss of habitat, 14 acres, is pretty significant. The applicant has proposed a average density development, which in general is a good thing, I think, for the town. But when you look at the particular development, it doesn't really meet the spirit of the average density development. Really, what we want to do with average density is we want to preserve large swaths of open space and make that publicly available to the town. So it's a resource for the residents in the area. This particular project does not do that because a lot of the set aside is basically tied up in 50-foot buffers behind 2 houses. So that doesn't really serve as an open space. It serves more as a buffer. And then the one area that they have set aside really does not, it just barely meets the requirements of 200 feet wide in one spot, but really most of it is narrow. And it's going to be restricted to what can be done with that piece of property because I believe that the golf course is going to retain ownership of that area. So that really doesn't fit the needs of the average density. The way that it is developed will have an impact on the character of the neighborhood. The housing style is different, and that is a concern. Perhaps really the biggest concern that the CAC had, though, stems back is we're going to put a stub into this parcel of 190 acres. And what it's going to do is it's going to open up the parcel potentially for future development. Now, in the past, there have been other developments brought forward, not by this applicant, but prior, off Balltown Road. And the CAC is concerned that this stub will provide an opening for future development of this parcel. So what we have asked the developer is to sit down with the town and develop a long-range plan with the town and really figure out how we can go forward and in a way that's mutually beneficial for both the golf course, because we want the golf course to be viable, but at the same time, achieving what the objectives of the town are, and that is to keep the bulk of that area open. So if you look at the end state, if that whole parcel was developed, it would be about 400 houses. It would be a significant strain on both the transportation system, the utility system, and the school system if that actually developed. I don't think we want to see that, and it's mentioned in the comprehensive plan. We don't want to see that. Let me just make sure I got it. Oh, and the other thing too was what the EIS will do, the environmental impact statement, is it'll require the developer to look at different scenarios and look at different options, including preserving the piece of property. So what we can do is we can sort of formalize the process so we can go forward and sort of make the best recommendation for the town. Currently, the developer put together a lot of different options, but the council felt that they weren't fully investigated. They were just put out there. We could put the road here, we could put the road there, we could do this or that, but there was really no real supporting material, and we felt that that really didn't count as a close look. So given all these issues, the secret law basically says if there could be a adverse environmental impact, you really need to give the project a positive impact. So again, we tried to work with the developer to come up with mitigating actions. We were unable to do that. So that's why we had the process. I'd be willing to take any questions.
Do they have an opportunity to challenge this?
The process is that the town would, if the town board decides to issue a positive declaration, then the developer would be required to develop an environmental impact statement with the town board. And what they'd have to do is look at several different options. We're not saying that they can't develop. What we're saying is you need to have a closer look at this project to determine what the best option here is. So we're not saying no at this point. We're just saying you need to take a closer look at this. So yeah, a area where a positive deck was given was the ShopRite class, and what they required the developer to do in that particular development. I was on the board at the time, was to look at different configurations of the shopping center and putting one right up against where it was right on the road, all the stores were on the road. And they went through that and they picked obviously the one that's there now. You just get a better understanding of the dynamics, and we feel that the golf course is an important open space, and we need to understand the dynamics of that. And that's the process. So you're not saying that; you're just saying you need to take a note. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Laura, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Did anybody have any questions, or we do want to move forward with that? The next step would be that we'll show the, the proposed positive declaration to the whole board at the agenda meeting on Tuesday, if that's the will of this committee.
Are we ready for that? Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a lot in there. Feel free to just page through and then reach out to Dart or Clark or I with any questions. The planning board recommendation was also in there, but essentially the planning board recommendation gets put on hold while we're working through the seeker recommendation. The planning board recommendation is pretty lengthy and full of a lot of data as well. So it might be a good time to read it just so you're aware of what's in there. But that does get put on hold while we're working through the environmental impacts.
So that's why we did include the handout of the average density development process. Remember, there's that special use permit, which is what the planning board recommendation is on. Correct me if I'm wrong, Laura. And then there's this seeker where the recommendation comes from the CAC. So the special use permit is essentially on hold until seeker is fully determined. But which now would be this path of if the town board approves the positive seeker declaration, then this additional analysis and work will need to be done. That will all need to be done before the planning board can act, or the town board can act on the special use permit.
And who's the liaison for the as a positive seeker for all the work that the applicant has to do? Is that the planning board or is that the planning department?
It's typically the planning department and the CAC.
So the determination on Tuesday will not be to deny the project, but just to determine whether or not it's a positive declaration on the seeker.
That would be the next step.
And it'll be Thursday, the 29th. Tuesday, just the agenda meeting. So we'll discuss it with the board. John, you've recused yourself, so
Yes.
you can be present, but just not participate.
So then it would go to the next.
And then our
regular
board
meeting.
meeting's on the 29th, so that's when we have.
The vote to make the
The secret.
determination.
The determination. And if the board votes to agree with the CAC, then what happens?
Well, then the applicant would be asked to develop an environmental impact statement on specific things. It's not broad, it's specifically addressing the key findings of the CAC. So it's not a broad focus, it's a narrow focus,
Sure.
just to sort of address the issues.
Then it will go back to the planning board to see if those, oh, what?
Not board at this point.
Town board's lead agency with the Conservation Advisory Council being, basically aligned with the town board, right? Then it comes back to us, if there is approval someday, we would, be lead agency on site plan, and then Conservation Advisory Council would be advisory to us for the site plan.
From the CAC's perspective, I mean, I do believe that there are options out there that are going to meet the needs of both the developer and the town. And I think it's really important in the committee, the committee felt it was really important that, again, we really take a look at this piece of property and really understand the dynamics of it before we proceed forward with any development on this property.
Yes, because it's such a big.
190 acres. It's the largest single parcel, private parcel in the town. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Strayer. Thank you, Laura. What do we have next?
So I'll do this one quick too, because Clark didn't hear this, but at the last town board meeting, Ashok Ramasubramanian asked the town to look at a non-binding solution for Bethlehem to encourage pesticide-free lawns. The example that he sent us from the town of Bethlehem is page 50 of your packet. This is a slightly different resolution. It supports the right to clean air, clean water, and healthy environment. But I think the reason he gave it to us is that it's non-binding, and it shows that the town can just kind of go through things that they would like to encourage residents to do. That's non-binding. I don't think I mean, I'm not an expert on non-binding resolutions. I certainly don't think that it hurts to put something out there that the town board supports the pesticide free. I know we sort of did that when we enacted our pesticide free sign program. There's a lot of whereases in there kind of supporting pesticide free. The example from the town of Bethlehem, I think, would have to be rewritten significantly. But if you guys are interested, like Elena and Ashok and I could probably work on a pesticide-free resolution, non-binding.
That'd be great, Laura. I did review it. Ashok sent it to me initially, and I did review it, and I passed that along to you. And I would be thankful if you would work in conjunction with Elena, our town resident Ashok, if he is still interested in contributing.
Yes, that would be good.
Okay, so I didn't have any discussions, and then it pops over to Kevin unless anybody had anything under discussions they wanted to add.
All right, under planning board, we already talked about Union Street, Mohawk Golf Club. Bottom line is that we took action on the recommendation for a special use permit, and by a vote of 5-2, the planning board recommended that the town board deny the special use permit. Under projects that are active, there's the Antonio Park, which is the Paulsonelli subdivision that we've been working on. And we expect to have a resolution for Monday night on that, granting approval of that 2-lot subdivision and transfer part of that property. 3900 State Street, as you all know, is a Kia car dealership. We moved that over to town board, and we're just in a holding pattern until the town board gets through that and sends it back to us, possibly. And then new projects. This is stuff that I haven't had an opportunity to look at. It'll be in the packet this weekend. But 1222 Troy Schenectady Road, that's the old Harding and Mazzotti law firm. Apparently there is an application with the town of Colony, because the property is primarily in the town of Colony, for a religious use daycare and partial food pantry, all located within that structure. So, we'll take a look at that, and give any feedback to the town county, but we expect them to be the lead agency. But, if we have any concerns, we'll at least, formally, send them our concerns so that they at least have to get back to us. One thing I was thinking about, Laura, is maybe signage. We might want to let them know about signage. Make sure that we don't put anything too obtrusive, there, something that's really sticks out. Algonquin Roads is a new application. Again, I haven't seen this one yet, but that's going to be a lot line adjustment. It sounds like it needs an area variance. I believe that will be on the agenda also on Monday night, Clark.
Yes.
And then there's just several items that we're just waiting on. Aqueduct, Rivers Ledge. We're still waiting for the applicant to get back to us on their design of this senior apartments and the garages. Union Street was a single family home that was potential conversion and mixed use. We need to find out whether that's still a go forward. We haven't heard from the applicant whether they're done with that. I think they might have had a possible tenant sell it to that wanted it, a change of use there, but might have gone away. River Road, that's Kelt's Farm. The signage is in the town right away. We still have an open item there to come through that signage, whether it stays. That would be a town board action in the future. And Brookdale Senior Living, their expiration for their pods that are on site has expired. And I believe we need to poke them a little bit there so that they can get rid of the pods and put in a permanent structure for storage if they don't have room. And that's all I got. Monday meeting, and we only have one meeting in June.
All right.
Steven,
I was just saying thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Clark.
All right, the next item is item F, the zoning board. Just a relatively standard zoning board meeting, 5 cases, 2 fence variances and 3 setback variances. I skimmed them, pretty typical, nothing out of the ordinary there. We don't have any updates on the grants at this time, but we should have something for July. Complete Streets, the next meeting is the 30th. And there was a meeting with the grant writer, Laura. I don't know if there's anything on that or if that will be kind of pushed out to July.
actually, I think Jean can comment on that. I think that one was scheduled possibly soon.
Meeting with the grant writer.
Well, what he asked me to do, which I did, was to connect Jim Levy and Bill with him. So they were going to set that up.
Okay.
And
Okay, yeah, I saw those emails. Those emails have gone through. They may have set up a time already. I saw them.
They might have taken me off the things. I don't think I have anything from them.
Okay, we can reach out to Jim and just get it. Pre-council, we canceled the June 8th meeting and we'll reschedule the meeting. And the next meeting will be July 13th. So the next item is item J, the Conservation Advisory Council.
Yeah, so the CAC hosted a composting day to encourage residents to compost their household food waste, and it was a huge success. The entire class got basically filled up relatively quickly. I think there's a lot of support within the town for this, and there was 2 classes. One was on May 2nd, and the other one was the following week, and it was well attended. So that was a really good thing. At our more recent meeting, which we had this week, a couple things I'd like to just talk about. We are encouraging low mow, and one of the things that we're trying to promote is no mow May, which means you don't mow your lawn during the month of May. There's a lot of advantages. We're trying to wean people from pesticides. So if you allow your grass to grow and get a really good start in the spring before you start cutting it down, it really discourages the germination of weeds and stuff like that. One of the things that was brought to our attention, though, is that the ordinance in the town may interfere with people performing that. And in fact, someone brought up that someone actually got a ticket from the town for not mowing their lawn when it was too hot. So we need to look at it. And I think the CAC is going to look at that. We'll probably come with some sort of recommendation. We're not promoting that people not cut their lawns, but we would like to better understand the conflict between what we're trying to promote and what the ordinance says. So that's something that we're going to be taking on. Another thing is there is a group in Niskayuna, called Quiet Niskayuna, trying to get wean people off gas leaf blowers, and right now they're just focusing on gas leaf blowers and not the lawnmowers, but that would be another item that we'll go after. And we as a CAC would like to take that on as well. So giving you a heads up that that's something that we are going to be talking about in the future with this brightness and basically support this effort. And the other thing that the CAC has been looking at, we spent a long time this last meeting talking about, was conservation tools to preserve land within this unit, and what's possible. Last Wednesday, we looked at easements and stuff and sort of talked about Bethlehem's program and stuff like that. More to come on that, though. We're just starting this process, and we are looking at other options. We'll come up with some recommendations in the future. And again, when you look at the comp plan, the 2013 comp plan, this was one of the goals of that particular plan, was to get the town to look at potential programs to position themselves to keep open space that they found valuable. And it sort of ties in with the NRI, which hopefully will start phase 2 if we get this New York State grant.
Yeah.
So thanks for everybody's help on that.
Excellent. And I hear you, Mr. Strayer, on the no mow May. I had to compromise and not mow my backyard and mowed my front yard around mid-May because I was getting some side eyes and a couple of comments here and there.
Yeah, it's strictly voluntary, and we realize that, but I think we just need to look at that and just see where the balance is.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
certainly we don't want somebody to try to be a good steward of their lawn and end up getting
Ticketed.
Ticketed.
Yes.
Embarrassing.
Okay, what's next?
Climate Smart Community Task Force. Laura, are you there? I don't have a good grasp on that, right?
Yeah, that's just a continuation. I know last month we had a resolution to potentially be able to do a climate smart RFP. That's still the next step on that. We actually took it off because I just haven't had a chance to get it out. But I will keep working on that. The supervisor sent me some really exciting news that we're going to talk about in just an hour or so from this morning, that the Schenectady County actually did a climate action plan, which should really actually help us with our climate smart initiative as well. So still moving forward, just slowly.
Okay. The Architectural Review Board, we had our May meeting on the 17th. June meeting will be on the 21st. We've got 6 kind of slowly moving projects going along, so it's a little bit slow right now. Things like the Rivers Ledge Senior Center have kind of slowed down. We haven't heard from them in quite a while, so we've got a couple of projects that are in the works, but they're very often at the pace of the applicant, so they're moving a little slowly right now.
What projects, Clark, has the Architectural Review Committee affected so far?
Yeah, well, one of them that they helped with was Kelt's Farm.
Yes.
So Joel kind of reached out to give a shameless plug of anyone who wants to go to the Parade of Homes, I guess. He's on that. So
Okay.
he was lobbying pretty heavily for people to swing by and take a
Very
look
good.
at their house. The Architectural Review Board worked with them on some of the exposed timber on the porch and just
And
kind of
signs
tying
and
them
lighting?
together. Yeah, the sign's still to be determined, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
But that was a big project. There was a Makia construction on Aqueduct that we worked on. There's a couple others that aren't popping to mind right now, but 31 East Street is kind of an exciting project down where there's a new owner with a flooring underlayment business, and she's very excited to work with the ARB, and I think she's really going to spruce up that property. She's putting in a heated sidewalk, a little heated patio, a garden. So I think that will look really nice. So there's some good input here and there. One of the things we're still trying to break into, and we do have one project, is building permits where someone's adding an addition to their home and they might not have the guidance of an architect. They might be just working with a contractor. So the ARB can help you preserve the value of your home by making that addition blend with the style of your home. So we're excited to have a building permit that we're looking at.
And there's no cost to the resident for that.
No cost, and you don't, in many cases, like with individual homeowners, you're not required to follow their advice. It's literally just free advice.
And did they have a hand in Rivers Ledge as well?
Yeah, they did.
did,
They
yes.
did. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
So the next item is comprehensive planning committee.
So, the survey is either released or soon to be released. I'm not quite sure if we actually, released it yet. The committee, is planning to, before I get into that, I'd like to actively thank Dennis for writing an article, appeared in the Gazette, about the survey and about the comp plan. It was very, very nice. So it's excellent. The committee is planning on having a information center at Town Hall on the 29th of July. And the format that we're sort of proposing is that we will give a short presentation and then do some sort of information gathering from the residents that are there to be the first of many that we plan to have throughout the process, but basically just to gather information. And the comp plan has begun to break the sections up. And that's us. You have a question?
Just a computer. I don't know if the signal is
okay.
on or off, and so.
Oh, there we go. Good. So yeah, that is,
So that's where we are now. So we're hoping that we get good feedback.
Or that's the 29th.
That's gonna be the 29th. I think it was originally scheduled on the 28th, but we had to move that.
If you have any information that you want me to put out,
Yeah, I mean,
You send it.
let's talk after we
do we know when the survey's going out?
the survey.
I thought this week.
Yeah.
So I was actually, so I started to look at, we actually released the survey internally to our comp plan members, and then they responded. And before I released the survey, I wanted to make sure that we had the capability of analyzing that data properly. And what I found was it's actually quite cumbersome through the Google Forms to analyze the data, especially with the way that we had formulated the questions. And then I was like, ah, shoot, like I went back to SurveyMonkey because I know we had looked at that before, and I was just adding in a couple questions to see if it was significantly easier to analyze it under SurveyMonkey. And then the cost of SurveyMonkey again to see if there's a possibility that I could pull it down. It's something like, it's more than I thought it was, which is why we were working, I think, so hard on the Google, under the Google software. The problem is, the way that it imports into a spreadsheet is that if we have all these different things where they can click 3 choices and all of the choices come up, and it's I don't know, it's quite cumbersome to try and figure out what's happening in order to analyze it. It doesn't have the analytics built into the software. But I did notice, because I had met with the logo committee, that they were asking if we had SurveyMonkey, and I said, no, we are only using Google Forms. And so she said, okay, we'll use Google Forms. So the logo committee has just put out their survey using Google Forms. I was thinking I was just going to reach out to her and say, how is the analytics going on this? And if she really feels like it can be handled, then I'll just, suck it up and use Google Forms. The analytics was pretty bad though. I'm just saying.
Laura, what survey did we use when we did the chicken survey a year or two ago?
So I actually think at that time we had paid for a different survey software. It was similar to like SurveyMonkey, but it was called something else that we used.
Hey,
It
Laura,
was not Google Forms.
do you have the spreadsheet from the Google Docs? Or,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could you send that to me? Because I'd like to take a look at it.
Yeah,
I-
if we think we can do it, I was concerned about putting it out and then having problems doing the analytics.
Yeah, no, really an important concern. Send it to me. I'd like to just take a look at it and see,
Okay.
see it.
And in the meantime, like my office, like Trish has been working on a flyer that we can add the survey to, that so we can just start making copies of that and putting it out in places. So we've still been moving forward, just concerned about how that data is coming back into Google Forms and if it'll be as usable as we want it to be.
Laura, we talked about this, we had a meeting this week, the logo group, and the analytics is going to be a problem. We think we can work around it, but we only had 5 questions on that survey. So
It's a lot more complex.
It's a lot more complex, so I would not recommend going forward with that kind of analytics problem in the result.
I think what I want to see is I want to see what the spreadsheet is structured with, and then we can sort of make an evaluation, because we might be able to scrape it. So,
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation, and I actually started doing this, I started putting the questions into SurveyMonkey, is even if it's just for a very short period, I have some consulting fee budget possibly that I might be able to use. I'd have to ask Beth and possibly get a budget mod, but is to just pony up the money and get SurveyMonkey, at least for the initial outreach to people. And I apologize to the logo company, because the committee, I thought that we would be able to use Google Forms, but when I started looking at it, like truly, I was like, oh my gosh.
We think we can find a workaround, but it's much easier with just 5 questions.
yeah, no, the one we put together, yeah, so much more complicated.
Oh, the date, you mentioned, you said July.
June,
June.
June 29th, yeah. Gene, you got that, June?
Where I haven't.
Okay. All right, thank you, Dennis. It would not be the first time I misspoke.
Was wondering where I was on a Saturday.
Yeah, no,
It's-
that's a Thursday. Oh, well, we picked that date. Is that-
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay.
It's because of the
Oh.
early voting. Or they.
Sorry, that's why when I.
No, I think then we may have to, I don't want to.
It may be July 29th.
I don't want to overlap with the.
There's 2 actually meetings that night. Diversity and agreement. Monday, that's Jamie, no, that's Thursday, correct?
Yeah, we talked about possible dates, the 28th and 29th came up, 28th does not work. So, all right, we'll have to sort of figure that out. Hold off on the flyer.
Yeah, let me look at that dart, because I know we passed that date around, but then I thought we had moved it a week or 2 after that, because I'm not going to be here for that day either.
We weren't going to be there, and I know, but I thought we had sort of said that was okay, but now, given the circumstances that we're in now, perhaps it would be better if we move it a week. Yeah, Laura, let's figure that out.
Okay.
But I think I want a couple weeks notice for the town residents, so we get a good attendance, so, all right, we'll have to figure that out.
All right, that brings us to the building department.
Want me to take that, Laura? I think, the zombie property project is moving along. Is that it, next step with the county? I'm not exactly up to speed on that.
Yeah, we did get a notice from the county that they have started their legal process. I don't know if Elena was copied on that email. I know she had to leave, but and one of the properties has essentially challenged us. The other ones are moving forward under the foreclosure. They did actually think the timeline was going to take a little bit longer too, but again, just to remind everybody, this is the pilot. And so it's the first time we've ever done it. So every time we do it, it's a new thing and we're learning and should go quite smoothly as we learn. And they even want to use it in different communities. But although it is moving forward, the timeline for foreclosure, I think, got extended. And one of the properties has notified us that they will be working against the foreclosure process.
There was a little bit of a hiccup too, because of a recent that was mainly the challenges, how many entities across the country can complete foreclosures. So David Hogenkamp's kind of working that piece through. But there is another meeting scheduled for August 8th.
Nothing else really to note in the planning department update, so Metroplex.
Do we have Dr. Horton on screen? All right. Anything from the legal department?
I did have that note about Stanford Ave on there, and Elena mentioned that we will just be pursuing with the county a direct deed, not a donation from the owner.
Anything from the historical aspect?
Not much. We got good attention at the, at Miski Day.
Yeah.
Handed out a lot of copies of the cleanings article that we put together. And last Saturday, we put up a winning plaque down by the railroad station.
Oh, very good.
Thanks to the Ray and his guys for getting the plaque installed. Weren't a lot of people there. Unfortunately, it was drizzling, rainy. It was supposed to be tied in an art show. Fizzled out because of the rain. We had 18, 20 people there, and Bill McPartman showed up. Say a few words, so it turned out very nice. Yeah. Hopefully the first of many. Still have one back here. We got 3 years ago. We got to get up, but
All right.
working on it.
Do we have a proposed location for that?
In front of the school. The initial idea was to, once we got it, there was somebody trying to put together a 401(c) or something to try to raise money. So when they announced the creation of that entity, then we did tie it in with putting this in, but that fell through. So we're just looking for the time.
I did actually talk to Ray about that the other day, Dennis, and he said because they just did this other one, they're good to go, and really to just put a stake in the ground where it seems to make the most sense to you, and then they can go and look at utilities in that area. They're willing to just install it so that we can get it up. So, I mean, you could even just take a little green flag from my office today if you wanted, and just go out and take a look at where you think it would make the most sense for that sign.
All right, well, maybe next week. I'm leaving here for Canada, so.
Oh, you were? For Newfoundland? You're gonna go right up into the fires?
No. We're in the other part of Ontario.
Oh,
Okay. Is there anything further for the good of the order?
Get it onto the agenda. We're going to be having a paint recycling event. July 15th. It's going to be at the community senior center parking lot. It'll be a nice in through Banker and Community Center Drive, and then out onto Aqueduct. It's a free recycling event, and it's by Green Sheen, who's been funded by the state. They've done it in multiple other places. They've gotten up to like 750 people. It's all paint except for like spray paint, paint thinner, solvents, and things like that. But it should be a really good event. And I'll get some information out to put out, but also I'm going to put out an email for volunteers.
So I have a question on that. You said solvents aren't allowed?
Solvents are not.
How about oil paint?
oil-based acrylic, latex, stain, shell, shellacs, lacquer, sealers, varnishes, and.
I will be there.
Yes.
I got a taste of all that stuff.
They're a great company and they're right out of Rotterdam too, because they're gonna be recycling it and then they're gonna sell it also. So
Excellent.
it's pretty cool.
All right. Where was that again? It's July 15th?
July 15th, and it's gonna be at our community center. We just need a really good sized parking lot.
Yep.
And a night's in one way and out the other. And we've also talked about like the people that are coming to the pool, because it'll be 9 to 1. That will have a different entrance and someone there to kind of monitor where to go for the.
Now, a lot of those, you don't even get out of your car, they just take it right out of your. car.
Exactly, and it's gonna be two lines, so it should move fairly
Yeah.
quickly. They've done it across the whole state. And they're doing some really nice work with it.
Excellent. Okay, is there anything else? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Any opposed? And we are adjourned for another, 3 weeks. All right.
Okay, Laura, we're gonna shut it down now, okay?
Thank you, Laura.
Oops. Yeah. Don't. Oh, here we go.